Hey, everyone. Welcome to Unique Ways with Thomas Gerard, an audio podcast. Got a really great guest on today. She is passionate about people and career development, especially for women, people of color, and those who are the first in their family to experience corporate life and professional services. Please join me in welcoming Lili Gao. Welcome, Lili.
Hi, Thomas.
Ready for our 20 questions?
Yep.
Here we go. Number one, tell me a little bit more about yourself. What do you do?
So I'm a managing consultant for PA Consulting. We're a different type of consulting firm. We use innovative thinking, breakthrough technologies to build a positive human future. My work focuses on the energy transition, advising utilities on customer engagement and other organizations on their sustainability strategies. Especially right now, I'm focusing a lot on the area of transportation decarbonization.
Nice. Yeah. Just to know for our audience, Lily and I kind of go way back. We met at Lenovo in Beijing many years ago. So here we go. Number two, what's a key piece of knowledge that makes you different?
I'll talk about two things. One, I would say I have a really broad set of professional experience. I've worked in quite a few different countries. I've worked in even in the US in geographically diverse areas, and I've spent a lot of time in different industries. So, like Thomas mentioned, we initially met at Lenovo, so I've worked in consumer electronics, and I've been in the consulting industry for the last 8 years now, where I've spent time in entertainment, healthcare, and of course, the majority of my time in the energy space. The second thing is I've experienced a lot of different lifestyles and I'll talk about what I consider kind of a wide ranging resource intensity because of the space that I'm in. So I've spent time in rural China, and I've also spent a lot of time in really big cities all over the world. So I think I've just have a really different exposure to the kinds of lifestyles that one could live and how those lifestyles impact the planet.
Good stuff. Number three, why this of all things? Why do you do what you do?
I do what I do because climate change is the defining issue of our time. It already is having huge physical, social, and economic impacts on our society. So I'm trying to make a small contribution to mitigating some of those impacts. One, by helping organizations reduce their emissions, and two, by supporting my colleagues in the energy and utility space to help make an impact on the supply side in terms of how clean our energy is, and integrating more low carbon options. And I'd actually really love to get a bit more into what I call like the demand side in terms of how we consume resources and energy. I think there's a lot of work that can be done in terms of how individuals are influenced to and can choose to consume resources. And that'll really change what the future looks like.
Nice. And you're doing that based in California, right? We'll get to that in a second. So number four, what does your future look like?
I hope my future looks simpler in terms of lifestyle, and also I think doing work that has more near-term impacts as well.
Great. And here's the location question. So number five, let's talk about location. How does the notion of place play into what you do?
So climate change obviously is a global issue that we all need to take action on if we and to make impact our spheres of influence to make a difference. You mentioned that I am in California, so California, of course, is very cutting edge in a lot of the policies that are being put in place, and I think some of the boundaries that the state is willing to push on the national and global level in terms of really making an impact. I think some of them might be. I would say very avant-garde, and perhaps are things the state will have to walk back at some point in time. But I think it's better to be more aggressive now, and really see how far we can push things.
Great. This is so exciting for me to get into the nuts and bolts of climate. I feel like the conversation's been about maybe AI really focused here, anyways, in Vancouver, and to shift it back to climate is great. So number six, if you had to start from the beginning, what advice would you give your former younger self?
Cool. So I spent a lot of time, maybe too much time thinking back. But I would give myself two pieces of advice. One is to ask for help and guidance. I feel like for some reason growing up, I always felt that I had to do a lot of things on my own. And I feel like getting into undergrad, I ended up studying microbiology, which like at the time was kind of cool, but it was objectively very challenging. And I think also made more difficult by the fact that I didn't really love it like some people did, or had a clear sense of where it was going to take me. So I really should have leveraged more kind of the career counselors and the academic support services that are available at the school. And I think especially as a what I call a 1.5 generation. So I was my parents immigrated to Canada and I was born in China, but I also, grew up and for the most part in Toronto. So I think as a, a newish immigrant, I think there are a lot of things that we don't quite understand how they work, and I would have benefited from taking advantage of some of those resources and kind of understanding, what all else is out there. The second piece is just slowing down and reflecting. So the first 5 years of my professional life were spent in Beijing, and I spent a lot of time kind of exploring that home culture because I had been away from it for a long time, and especially as an adult, navigating Chinese corporate culture, and I think just like a lot of us, kind of figuring out our lives in our early 20s. And I think I would have benefited more time. I would have benefited from spending more time just like thinking about what I was doing, where I was going, and like what I really wanted to be doing going forward.
Nice. And you ended up at an Ivy League school for your graduate studies, right? That ended up, then you must be looking back and saying, I kind of did things right. Um,
I mean, yeah, for the most part. I mean, I think things are fine now. I think I maybe could have spared myself a little bit of pain along the way, but that's life.
Great. Okay. Number seven, a day in the life. What's your day in the life like?
My day in the life is not super exciting, but I guess it generally starts around 7 to 8 o'clock in the morning because I have a lot of colleagues in the UK and on the East Coast. So on a busy day, I might have meetings that go into the early afternoon. So the meetings usually revolve around kind of figuring out go-to-market strategies, helping clients solve problems, and just figuring out how we're engaging with our clients. After lunch, I'll usually have a little bit of quiet time to work on presentations, things that require just a little bit more quiet time. And then in the late afternoons, I pretty much dip. I don't have much energy to do much in late afternoons, so I'll do a little bit of meditation, power naps, depending on how much I've slept the night before, and then I'll do a little bit of stuff around the house or go to a yoga class. And then I am a natural night owl, so I'll usually, or not infrequently, put in a couple hours after dinner where I really have, quiet from email and other online things to like focus on projects or activities that just require a little bit more concentration and deep work.
Great. So eight is around lifelong learning. It's a popular topic. How do you stay up to date?
I honestly don't think I figured it out. I feel like with just the number of people and channels that are out there, it's almost impossible to keep up to date what's happening. But I do have a couple sources. I have a few email lists that I subscribe to that I think are good in terms of providing a different perspective on some business issues. So I have these newsletters called the Hustle and Morning Brew. I listen to podcasts just for more in-depth perspectives on energy and transportation. And then I actually use Instagram kind of for news just to see like what the conversation is about and what the buzz is in certain circles.
Nice. Okay. Number nine is around tools. Do you just use digital tools or?
No, I actually have a hybrid of digital and analog tools. So one, I don't know what I would do without my calendar. So either Outlook when I'm engaged in work or Google Calendar for my family. So I do Outlook, the To-Do app. I also do like a Kanban board at home on the wall just to kind of keep track of visually in one space of all the work things that I've got going on at once. And I use Apple reminders on my personal phone for just like the personal things that I need to keep track of. And on the non-digital side, I actually really love taking notes by hand. So I've got a big pile of paper that I need to work through. But I'm a bit of a visual thinker, so I kind of like drawing things out with mind maps and stuff. But I do have a backlog of things that I feel that I should digitize. So there's a little bit of, I probably should explore some other tools, kind of like Remarkable and whatnot, that'll help me, keep the tactile elements of note taking, but make it a little easier for my record keeping.
Great. Okay. We're halfway. Number 10. How do you deal with work-life balance?
So this has been a big topic for me actually this year. I have I really love exploring and doing new things. So I feel like my mind and body, for the most part, just kind of have just struggle with staying still. So I've over the last bit really taken more effort to, give myself more space, do less, kind of minimize the stress and sense of urgency in my life. So broadly, I would say the first thing I've been doing at work over the last couple of years has been saying no to more things, only doing the things that really align with my goals and what I want to be establishing. I think especially I've also learned that I kind of have some ADHD tendencies as an adult. So like this is more important to really, you know, be mindful of what my attention is being pulled to. I think the second thing in terms of a broad sense is really rest. I actually took a 3-month break from work at the beginning of this year because my company, PA, we have a sabbatical policy where after 3 years of work, you can take a year off. So, and I think this is really important for everybody. I actually feel more companies should have this kind of policy to allow people to take like just a month off to really disconnect from work. I think one part of it is also just like the physical repairs that happen to our body, resting, sleeping more, eating better, exercising. Those are obviously all critical. And I think everyone really just benefits from just disconnecting a bit and, like seeing what your body does when it's not pressured and, trying to meet deadlines all the time. Uh, Tactically, I actually moved to 2 devices. So I keep my email for work on a separate phone. And I think a lot of us get tempted to, Outlook is another like dopamine rush, like all the other apps. So I find it easier to just like not have the temptation of that on my phone. And I guess the last thing I'll mention here is really just practicing a little bit of mindfulness throughout the day. So I was recommended to do like kind of take 3 deep breaths in between transitions. So as you move from meetings or different activities, it really helps you to, kind of register where your body and mind are throughout the day. And I think that's helpful in terms of, keeping your sanity and not being, I guess, like overly agitated throughout the day.
Great. Another quick note for the audience. If you like the kind of ambition of this episode, check out our recent episode with Egzi Aksanar. She's a PhD at Stanford. So number 11, if you weren't doing what you do now, what would you be doing?
I've just spent a lot of time talking about work-life balance. I think if I was not doing what I'm doing now, I would probably be in like kind of like the wellness and longevity space, yoga, physical therapy, diet, that kind of stuff would be I think very valuable to get into as well, just in terms of helping to promote physical and mental and emotional peace.
Great. And what would you not like to do with your career?
Um, this isn't so much subject oriented, but I would really like something that didn't require as much sitting and screen time.
Do you have a favorite word, quote, or sentence?
Everything in moderation, including moderation.
Do you have a least favorite word, quote, or sentence?
One thing I'm a bit tired of hearing of late is women can have it all. And I'll give my rationale for this. One, I think it puts a lot of pressure and undue pressure on women to be doing everything and doing everything well. And the reality is that balancing many things is just very challenging. And two, I think it's an extension of our just societal push and obsession with like never having enough. And I don't think this mindset is really productive for anybody.
You have one word to describe yourself. What do you choose?
Explorer, not in the sense of kind of like a physical exploration, but like I've mentioned, I do enjoy kind of experiencing, seeing and learning new things.
What keeps you up at night?
In the near term, I have a deadline that's coming Friday, so it'll be that. More existentially, I think about reconciling consumerism and our pursuit of growth with the well-being and sustainability of our society and the planet.
Moving into the final stretch here, what's a dream you're chasing?
Spiritually, greater self love. And practically, I want to get to a place where work is an optional pursuit.
What inspires you?
People who live in line with their truest values.
Any advice you'd like to share?
I would say for those with the privilege, take it a little easier.
Nice. And finally, number 20, how can our listeners keep tabs on you? What's our call to action?
You can find me on LinkedIn. My name is Liligao. The call to action, I would go back to that piece of advice, take it a little easier, and think a little bit more about our consumption decisions.
Great. Okay. Well, thanks so much for being on today. Remembering the time at Lenovo and how magical that was being in Beijing at that time in China, kind of really brings me back. So thanks so much for being a guest.
Yeah, thank you for having me.